And I think the best and most impressive thing about this short story is how well Miles writes the character. I mean, which frankly, Isabel is a little worrying. I mean, she really gets into the mindset of this total psychopath. And how collected he seems about the fact that his partner dies right in front of him. I mean, it is pure convenience to him. And this was a really fun and intriguing piece. And as I said, I loved it the more that I read it again and again. And I think a lot of readers will probably agree that it's very difficult to get into the mindset of a very unsympathetic character and yet kind of make it fun at the same time. And I'm going to say something that I'm about to say about the next piece, but this would make a really interesting novel. I mean, but I think probably Ellis has probably already been there with American Psycho, but I mean, I don't know. For me, I think I prefer to read Miles's version of it. And speaking of the next piece, we have Ali Butler with, as I said, I'm going to butcher this because I don't speak Korean, Keru no Kowa Keru. I'm sure that's completely off. So with Ali Butler, I mean, I really enjoyed this piece because this piece to me read more like a novel extract, and I wish it had been, because I really wanted to get into the lives of these two sisters like more deeply, Kiko and Kathleen, who are second generation Americans of Korean descent. Their parents came to America in the short story. And I mean, for a fairly longish piece, I felt like I read through this pretty quickly. I mean, I think myself and Oliver and Rosanna all did. And I think that's a testament to the abilities of the writer to be able to write a fairly long-ish fiction piece in a way that seems like it's over in 2 seconds. I really do think this could be expanded into a novel, personally. I mean, it would be something that I would read because these two characters seem so alive and their relationship seems quite true to life as sisters. Like, they're similar enough that they get on, but they're very, very different people. And you see it in small things throughout the text, but I mean, Ali Butler did a really good job on this short story, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I would kind of like the way that we've had Stephen May kind of give us 2 installments of Mrs. C in issues 2 and 3. Or was it 3 and 4? I really enjoyed reading about Mrs. C, and I think these are 2 characters that I probably wouldn't mind seeing some more of. So hey, Ali, if that's an idea. But I want to get on to Kleena Shadler, again, I apologise, I don't know how to pronounce that name in Irish. Sadler, I would assume. I'm sure she'll correct me. But her short story, Fada. The title is, no one's ever going to know what the title is. So a Fada in Irish, F-A-D-A, is equivalent to, I suppose, the French accent over a vowel. So it elongates the sound of the vowel. But this piece is quite interesting. I mean, it is basically a short story in which a woman walks into a bar and sits down. The end. But what Kleena does is this is an exercise in description. It's an exercise in the use of language, and the wonderful thing about this is that the language mirrors the action of the entire short story. I mean, it's only a page and a half long, and it's absolutely exquisite prose. It's wonderful, but as I said in the editorial, I think it's something that a lot of editors might have been kind of on the fence about. I mean, effectively nothing happens. It's just a woman moving through a room, but it's the way that Kleena executes it so well that it kind of kept me gripped. And I personally, for me, it's not overdone. It could have been overdone, and it's not. It works very, very well, and it could have been handled so wrongly, but it wasn't. It just hit that balancing act. And personally, it was kind of one of my favorites, and it's kind of like the verbal equivalent of, or the linguistic equivalent to having a bar of chocolate for me. So I very much enjoyed that piece. And actually, it's quite funny because Kleena is the executive director of the Rape Crisis Network in Ireland, or was, and 2 years ago she gave a speech about, I might actually link this in the video links below, a speech about like women's alcohol use, and it was an absolutely fascinating video, so I might actually link to this below. But this was such a beautiful piece, and just thank you, Kleena, for sending it in. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. I suppose it's not something that's to everyone's tastes, but I mean, I just thought it was such a muscular piece, and as I said, the way that the language mirrors the action of the piece, I thought it was wonderful. And so hopefully everybody enjoyed that as much as we did. Issue 5 also welcomes back Thomas Stewart, who I think this is his third time joining us at Anomaly Literary Journal. And I quite liked this piece, A Misunderstanding. I mean, Thomas is one of those writers who's totally unafraid to write about aspects of things that most writers, and frankly I think a lot of editors, would probably stay away from. I mean, in our previous issues he's covered murderous cults, a gay student with a serial killer fetish, and now a somewhat unstable, borderline abusive sexual power play of a gay relationship, in which, to be honest, like both characters in the story are quite unlikable. Their motives in the relationship are quite unclear. I mean, both are motivated out of a need for sexual power, control, or the concession of that sexual power over each other. And it is at times somewhat explicit, but I'd imagine this is a piece that probably not a lot of lit mags would have necessarily gone with. But I think that's an interesting choice for Stewart, because, I mean, for a man to write about something like that is, well, for anyone to write about something like that is quite a brave choice, because there isn't, I mean, I'd like to say there isn't much of a market for that. I mean, now that I've said that, I'm thinking of several magazines where that would perfectly fit in. But it is something that is a very specific thing to write about, and it's a brave choice, and he does it very, very well. I mean, the story doesn't descend into outright blatant domestic abuse, but it sort of hints at an underlying fetishism of violence and sexual power play, as I've said. I mean, it details one of those relationships that just kind of makes you wonder, what are they in it for? I mean, what are these people getting out of it? But it doesn't necessarily provide the answer, which is or it can be true to life. I mean, as humans, we don't always know our own motivations, or perhaps we don't think about what drives us in relationships that are not necessarily possibly for the best thing for us. They don't move us forward, but you kind of stay in it anyway. You know, it kind of goes back to that similar, well, not in the same way, but it's a similar sort of theme with The Almost Husband, the poem that I was talking about earlier. So it is kind of interesting that kind of, and I think, like as I said in the editorial, there are underlying themes that kind of match each other throughout this issue, and this was sort of one of them, although it's a bit more out there. It was among one of the reasons that we were drawn to this particular piece, was that it was quite just in your face about it. And you know, these relationships do happen in life, like whether gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, whatever, these relationships are there, they do happen. But it was just interesting to me that the main character doesn't seem to be all that into his partner. It's almost like his partner is sort of reeling him back in every time that he sees him kind of like veer away from him. I thought it was a very interesting piece, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. We certainly did. And I think Rosanna and Ollie do too. I think Ollie was a bit like, whoa, this is not what I expected. But then he saw the author and was kind of like, oh, that makes sense. But no, it was a wonderful piece. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And I think that's it for this fiction piece. I want to go on and talk about non-fiction and Autumn Shah. So in Klepto, Shah recounts her teenage shoplifting and the shame she's kind of carried about it for years, when she, as an adult and a mother, is sitting in a playground with two other mothers, and one of them kind of jokingly recounts her own kind of experiences of shoplifting. And there is a kind of a back and forth in the timeline in this piece, that kind of starts off with Shah's younger self, and then goes into sort of why she's sort of recounting and rethinking about that kind of era of her life as a teenager, when it's brought up by a friend of hers. And it's interesting the disparity between the flame of shame that's kind of like crops up again, like, you know, about her past petty thefts of lipstick and other, you know, completely non-essential things that, you know, when you're a teenager and you don't have any money, and you perhaps come from not so affluent a background, I suppose you're more inclined to shoplift, I suppose, for these things that you see other teenagers have just all the time. Like it's nothing, whereas to you, it's something that there's no way you can afford it. But I just I just loved that, just how this kind of sense of shame has kind of stuck with her. Even, I mean, how the other women kind of laugh about it, and Shah feels that she must sort of justify it to herself. As her friend kind of laughingly tells her, you were resourceful when you had to be. And, while there is a certain shade of shame that sort of burns through the piece as a whole, I mean, it is endearingly honest at the same time. And I mean, there are so many pieces I could have talked about, but I mean, obviously, I'm kind of on a clock here. But I really did enjoy this piece by Shah, because I think it's something that, like, I mean, not to indict myself, but what teenager hasn't, like, shoplifted something stupid that you didn't need? I mean, I think teenagers often do quite stupid things, as I've said, and you do, as an adult, kind of think, oh my god, what have I done? What would my kids do? What would I do if I found out my kids had done that? That kind of thing. So you look at it differently as an adult. And I think in comparison to other pieces that were sent through that were written from a child's perspective, because this isn't completely written from a child's perspective, it's sort of her, referring back to her own memories and things. And I thought that was a much better way of doing it. I mean, we can't all be Harper Lee, we can't write it To Kill a Mockingbird. That's, not that that's based on her real life, but I mean, it's very difficult to write from a child's perspective, and Shah doesn't necessarily do this. She does it from an arm's length, which I think works very, very well in this piece, and I personally, as a non-fiction piece, loved it. I mean, I think I'm probably going to leave it there, because there's quite a few other things that I did cover in the editorial, and I think to go on any longer would cause problems with uploading the audio of it to the website, and also probably to YouTube as well. But I do just want to thank all of the submitters, whether you were published or not. Thank you so much for submitting to us, because, I mean, we really can't do this without you. Issue 6 is coming next spring. Could be any time between March and May. Not sure. But there are a few treats installed already, waiting. So hopefully you'll look forward to that. Hopefully this has been a success. I hope I wasn't looking at my notes the entire time. There's no way to be sure until I see this. Thank you to L Edits who produced and supplied the theme tune music, for which we are extremely thankful. You can follow L Edits on Facebook. And thank you to Mario Sanchez Nevada for the incredible artwork throughout issue 5. It was just, I think it was breathtaking. I think it elevated the issue as a whole. And thank you to everybody who watches, likes, shares, reads. I mean, of course, I've said it before, but you can download the magazine for free off your browser and share it. Please do. We love it. Get involved on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook, and hopefully this will be a success. This is something that we're trialing, as I've said, and hopefully it will be something that everyone is interested in. So until issue 6, thank you for joining us, and see you next time.
And getting on to fiction, I wanted to talk about 3 pieces in particular. Badgers by Isabel Miles, Ali Butler's Caro no Koa Caro, I'm going to butcher that, I'm sure, I don't speak Korean, sorry.